Hi everyone, Natu here again, back with another video. And in this one, I'm going to talk about the mirror effect when it comes to raising capital and things that you're subconsciously doing that actually repels capital and investors away from you. Because, when it comes to, generally when it comes to the way we think, we think that when we do one action, when we have one action or we put things in one direction, we want to we want to raise capital either to grow a business like anywhere from 1 million to 100 million, or raise capital to acquire a business on the buy side of things. When it comes to that, we just think in terms of going forward. There's just a thought that, if I just do this and apply this action, A goes to B, then I'm going to go and get my desired result. But what a lot of people have that actually prevents them from getting to that next level and instead of getting, it's not my criteria, or take me off your email list, instead of getting all those messages, there's something that people lack that is actually keeping them chained down, so that they're not able to actually close their deals or even get any meetings with investors or any substantial things done. And it all has to do with it's what is called the progenitor feedback loop. And it's something that it's obviously in every single discipline. This is in the laws of physics, this is in sociology, biology, chemistry, and everything. And the way it works is you think of the golden rule: do unto others as you want others to do unto yourself. You think of the laws of physics, Newton's laws of motion, and the fact that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. These things are all cliche, but these things are actually parts of systems when it comes to the financial world as well, because there are several examples I can walk through. And generally, whenever an organization, the leader of an organization, like the company that you're working in, whenever the leader of the organization presents and acts a certain way and exhibits certain traits, these traits are typically mirrored in the person's environment when a person goes to raise capital. And I'm going to show you some specific examples of how it actually prevents people from getting to the level they want to be at. And so I'm going to take you through. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 examples. And, the first one, I'm going to tell you, I guess it's the most straightforward one, is the idea of self-investment. Because on a fundamental level, we want, people who are watching this generally want people to invest $1 million to $100 million equity or debt into their company. Yet, what is amazing is that so many people hesitate to invest even a few $100 into themselves, rather than, investing money to just look like they're successful, but actually investing money in being successful. So, beyond just paying for degrees and things. So actually, understanding, paying for different books, different services, different programs, different trainings, different even clothes, presentation, tools, media, content. People, it's really interesting how people choose to invest in their own life. And when you're looking to ask an investor to invest millions of dollars into your deal, and then it's like, you take a ride with, say, some of your co-founders, to meet them or whatever, and then, they see you arrive, with dress shoes that look dirty and things like that, then they won't take you seriously. And even if the way you present yourself, the way that, you show in the video, the way that, if you're sitting somewhere and you have your mother walking behind you or something like that, people are not going to take you seriously. And, you look like you're in some rented, small place that is really dirty and unclean. People won't take you seriously. And even subconsciously how you think. So that's number one. So generally investing in yourself before you expect others to invest in you. And it's going to show. So this is more of a long-term thing, but it definitely is one of the main pieces. So with this, there's also the idea of the scarcity mindset. So if you act over competitive and act scarce when it comes to others, people will to you. And when you close all your doors to other people, people generally close off to you. For example, one thing people do a lot is, they say, oh, I'm not going to, open any doors for people or make any introductions and things like that. And whenever people do this, then they wonder why it's so hard for other people to get introductions for themselves. Because oftentimes, when you just have these, altruistic behaviors for other people, when you're working on somebody and then you help somebody without you gaining anything, what often happens is that that person can also introduce you to people who can help you in your capital raise. And so if you see somebody that needs help in their capital raise process, just be a free hand and help them. Because maybe you talk to somebody who's an investor and they don't choose to invest in your deal because it doesn't fit in their criteria. But if down the road, you speak to somebody else who's struggling the same way, and then you remember, oh, this other investor I spoke to, it's in my criteria, just help them out, because that goodwill can come back and help you out. And just by even teaching and helping people, it helps cement the things that you've learned that works and doesn't work. And so I don't know if you noticed one theme about all the things we're discussing, but it's generally the theme that all these things are more long term. But the long-term things are the things that make people the money and raise people the capital. But that's the thing; those are the things that nobody talks about. So, another one is thinking big. So whenever you speak to an investor and then you mention, if you don't think big, or you don't, when it comes to your pitch deck, your proposal, your plans, if you don't think big, then you're not going to have investors who are serious approach you, because there's some people that they fill in some of the information on one of our companies, Aeropolis Capital, and then you see people want to raise like a few $1,000s and so on. And so anyone who wants to raise something like that, you might as well just get a loan or something like that. But if you want to raise some serious amounts of capital, you have to think big, and you have to understand that when it comes to institutional, you have to think big. And it's a really interesting mindset to get into, because some people, when they're working on raising, they're generating a few $1,000s, and that's really normal. When you're talking about the most you've seen is a few $1,000s here and there, or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But then you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of dollars. It's a kind of a dissonance. But just getting over that hump and forgetting the fact that it's a big jump, it brings comfort when you're speaking to certain parties, so that you're not talking about something that is like, basically, the point is just get used to it and, forget about that initial hump. Next, it comes to organization, because, in the small things, if you're unorganized and you're with how you conduct yourself, people who are unorganized would typically come towards you. And it's really interesting because when you have your processes and your procedures in your company working like clockwork, and somebody goes to see it, they'll look at your data room, they go to see it, you're going to have people who are generally refined come to understand your data room, and you just attract the types of people that you set up. And if you have all of your documents intact, you have your financial statements audited and everything, then you're going to attract the people who can do the same, who understand how to read those things. You have your subscription agreements, properly set up. You have your data room set up. You have your pitch deck, your teammates, your share structure set up. Because there are some companies I know that are going public and they don't even have a share agreement. And so those are the things that make organized investors who have their companies and their people under them, come to look at an organized company. But if you're not, because the problem is that you have to become the person that you want to attract. And the thing is that these investors, they're very organized, they're very disciplined, many of them, they're very organized. And if you don't become that person, then you won't be able to attract that person. So that's why the organization is very key. And, grown men with huge companies and stuff, still struggle with this simple fact. People who even own broker dealers, have a horrible organization, and it's sad and it's rampant, especially in our industry that is really low tech. And so this is something that is to be taken seriously if you want people to take you seriously. Next, the people that you spend time with and where you invest your time. Because if you don't invest your time in the right way, you're not going to how can you expect somebody to invest their time in you? And, it's a simple self-respect thing. And because, you're generally the average of the 5 people you spend your time with. And so that's why, what we do, we assist people in building their own compliance investor group so that they can spend time with investors, even the ones that say no to, because one can build win-win games and situations for people so that they can get in the right mindset. Because some people who we work with haven't seen a deal before. They haven't even originated a deal before. They don't know how it works. And so just by surrounding yourself with the people who you'd like to attract, even if they don't work with you right now, or even if they don't fund you right now, it gets you out of the mindset of the scarcity mindset, or of the mindset that, oh, this deal doesn't work, it's not going to work, and then just leaving somebody alone. Because if you pick and choose people you work with in that regard, then people are going to pick and choose working with you, and it's just a circle effect. Another one is control. So sometimes the best way to get control is to give it out, is to let go of it, actually. And some people, when they have their companies, there are two problems. Some people, they don't have alignment, and they mix up autonomy and alignment. So when it comes to how people organize their own company, they have a lot of people that are really, either somebody can be really tightly controlled because they're a micromanaging freak, or they micromanage everyone, or they can be a lot of, or sometimes there's a struggle with alignments. So alignment is just how aligned are your team members with your goals. And so, if you try to control everybody and have them do everything you want, ironically, because of this control, there's going to be very little innovation and entrepreneurialism. And when there's less entrepreneurialism and innovation, then your company is actually something that is very rigid and stiff. And there are times for this here and there, but what's going to happen is that you're going to attract those same people who aren't really innovative and who wants to work with a tightly wound thing. But if you have more, if you give the people you work with, if you trust them and give them more autonomy, then they're going to be less controlled. But then what's ironic is that you're going to have more control, because by giving people freedom, the freedom that you have, you give yourself the freedom to work in a company that can allow for innovation. And by doing that, you're going to get some of the best investors that understand some of these advanced team building things. Same thing comes with alignments. If you don't have a mission, so if your company is just for, hey, let me just build a company for the sake of buying a Ferrari or whatever, then you're going to have very low alignments. People don't want to live and leave their family to work for somebody who just wants to buy a Ferrari. But if you have a company where, you're doing something, big mission or whatever, you're saving the world or whatever, then people will have more alignments. The right people will. And by having people have the right alignments, you're actually going to have more control in the sense, or more control and do something that's bigger. So you will attract people, investors that have more alignment. And so these are the things. But if you don't have any alignment or any autonomy you give the people who work with you, then what's going to happen is, you're going to attract a lower quality of investors, because, overall the company strategy won't be there. And, finally, it also comes down to being deterministic, because one thing about a lot of these investors, they're very deterministic, and they try to have as much ownership over what they do as possible, especially the bigger ones, broadly speaking. Because if you don't have any if you don't have any self ownership over what you're building, if you blame like the governments, like other people, like the floor tiles you're walking on for the fact that your business didn't get funded, then you actually become more combative, and you actually repel investors, because investors always try to map the linkage between causes and effects. Like, why is it that when I put this input here of capital here, I get that output? And a lot of control investors, that's why they call them control investors, for the ones that are control, they make capital allocation decisions for their company. Because if you look at, for example, Warren Buffett and some of the top investors, they let the companies that they buy, make every decision except for the capital allocation decisions and incentive decisions of the people who run the company. So the point is to have a good mapping between the cause and effects via capital allocation decisions and incentive decisions. So, seeing that, understanding that if you blame yourself for the things in your company, then you're going to be able to focus your energy on the cause and effects relationships in your company. Thus, you'll be able to think like how an investor thinks. And when you do that, then you start to attract the people who think like you. And it's all thanks to some of the cognitive biases we have, because we like to be attracted to the people who are similar, who share our values, and so on. And so by adopting some of the values of serious either lenders or investors who actually takes big scrutiny when they review a deal, then you'll be able to attract that which you seek. And finally, get back to people on time. This is the one I struggled with for a while. Throughout a quick while, I was working with several people here and there. One bad trait was just not getting back to people and telling them yes or no quickly. Because if you want somebody to tell you yes or no quickly, you have to tell other people yes or no quickly. You have to say yes or no, and you have to be very decisive, and you have to cut off. So don't leave anything hanging, because if you want somebody to fund your deal right away, and you want there to be a yes or a no, then in your own business, look at how many yeses or nos you have. Because if you don't come with somebody with that urgency and that determination to do it, say yes or no now on the call, then how could you justify other people doing that for you? With this, I thank you for watching this video. This has been a quick one just to understand, how to attract those that you want in the capital raising space. And if you would like to learn, the capital raising process, just contact us at aeropoliscapital.com. So I thank you for watching this one, and we'll see you in the next